Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. This is Eugene Chan. Our guest tonight is Vivian Lau. She has been the Vice President of the Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China since 1996. She was recognized for her outstanding service to the sports industry with the Sylvia Bohemia Star Medal in 2020. Tonight, Ms. Lau is going to tell us where our sports industry is heading to after Beijing 2022 Olympics. Welcome, Vivian.
Thank you for asking me to come for the interview.
Right. You are quite a well-known figure in the Hong Kong sporting industry. And reading your CV, back in the 1990s, 1996, you were leading or accompanying many of our Hong Kong sportsmen to the different Olympics and also to Commonwealth Games, Asian Games, and many other international events throughout Asia. So you must have been there witnessing many of Hong Kong golden moments in our sporting history.
Yes.
And which ones are the most memorable?
Now, the most memorable one to me, because my own sport is ten-pin bowling, is Catherine Chi getting a gold medal in the Seoul Asian Games in 1986.
That right?
That was the first time Hong Kong achieved a gold medal, carving a milestone in the 32 years that Hong Kong participated in the Asian Games at that time. And then the next golden moment is, of course, Li Laishan, Shan, getting her gold medal in Atlanta in 1996. That was before the changeover.
That was a very touching moment for many Hong Kong people, isn't it?
Yes, because we never imagined that we could get a gold. And she did suffer quite a bit because she got jellyfish. You know, when she was in the water, she got burned from the jellyfish.
Really? Oh. Right, and how about the recent Olympics in Tokyo? I mean, we've done the best one so far. We have 1 gold in fencing, 2 silver in swimming, and 3 bronze in table tennis, karate, and cycling. That must be the best result ever.
Actually, we were all a bit reserved when the Olympic Games was postponed from 2020 to 2021. So this is really a very good or nice surprise for us that we managed to get 6 medals.
Just now you mentioned about Asian Games, where we had the first medal in ten-pin bowling, your favorite sport. How about in Commonwealth Games and Asian Games? I mean, how well have we done in the past?
Commonwealth Games, the only medals that we achieved was the mixed double by Amy Chen and Chen Ji-choi. That was in 1990.
That was in badminton, isn't it?
In badminton mixed double.
Yeah, I remembered. I'm sure you heard of this in the community, a kind of a karma to Hong Kong sports. In 1996, we had the first gold medal. Then in year 2000, we had nothing. 2004, we have another medal. 2008, no medal. So on and so forth.
It's a jinx to us.
It's a jinx, yes. So what's happening to the next Olympics? Are we going to expect anything at all?
Well, we hope to break the jinx so far. And I think after this achievement, government has already promised they will give more financial support to the sport. And they are going to, they are going to redevelop the old part of the Hong Kong SI.
The Sports
With the
Institute,
car park, the Sport Institute. And so, well, actually, Olympic is the ultimate aim of most athletes if they are an Olympic sport. And then Asian Games and World Championships are the ultimate aims of other sports which are not in the Olympic.
Just now, we know that the reason why we invite you today is also because the Winter Olympics is happening right now in Beijing. And I was privileged enough to watch the opening ceremony. And you realize when Hong Kong delegation came through, we only have like 4 persons. I know the one that's
3 athletes.
Yeah, we had 3 athletes going to the Winter Olympics, and the flag bearer is an athlete. The other 2 couldn't be there for other. I think they were COVID positive, so they couldn't be the opening ceremony. So we are in single digits. When you look back, all the Olympics that we had from 2002 until this year, it's always single digit of athletes joining that Olympics. But it's very good that we do go. Is it because of that we have lack of facilities and lack of the ski slopes in Hong Kong? That's the reason why we don't have all these athletes to go?
Actually, the ice skating is of a longer history than the skiing. association. But so far, up till now, government has not subsidized, no funding for these associations.
Right.
And it's not in the policy address of the government ever.
Right.
But we have been participating because we are the NOC, and these two associations are under umbrella. And so if the athletes manage to qualify for the Winter Olympics, then we will send them. But they have to work hard because there's no funding from government, so it depends on sponsorships or the patrons of the associations to give them money to train.
Right.
Then the second difficulty was that we don't have these venues. We do have ice skating ring, but they are commercial. And of course, we can't have a ski slope.
Right.
So the skier either comes from the States, or from Europe, in which they study and they are born in Hong Kong. And so the only way they can train is go to China. But for ice skating, at least, they have venues, commercial venue in which they could use.
Right. Maybe when you mention the NOC, you're referring to the National Olympics Committee in Hong Kong. And I'm sure all the viewers will only watch the great moments of participation and winning on the athlete side, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it for the sports to be successful. Can you tell us what are the roles that you have the administrator, you have the coach, you have the supporting team, and even commercial sponsors or even government sponsors. How important is each one of them, in your opinion?
Okay. The most important is what we call the NSA, National Sport Association, that govern each of the sport. Actually, Hong Kong SI, Hong Kong Sport Institute, is elite training center. So where does all the athletes come from? From the development plan of the NSA. And when they are trained to a certain standard, if they achieve good, then they might happen to become an elite sport with continuous success. Otherwise, they are still under development sport. This is the part of the administrator. We are all volunteer in our own associations. Nobody get paid. And then the next step is elite training. Now, it was called the Hong Kong Sport Institute was called the Jubilee Center that was subvented by the Hong Kong Jockey Club. And later they become a statutory organization. And then there is the Sport Development Board as well. Now, they provide the venue and the funding from government to train the athletes that are elite in the sense that they are talented, they have potential. So that part, we leave it to the Hong Kong SI. For the rest of the development sport, they have to train either in the LCSD, that is Leisure, Cultural and Services Department venue, or commercial venue like Tenpin Bowling.
So in other words, the government do play parts in different sports. Let's go back to the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics, which just happened on the 4th of February, which is last week, quite some time ago. And you saw that there was an ice skating, virtual ice skating, and then breaking the ice, showing that it breaks barriers and promote understanding and fostering peace. But this year, unfortunately, we read from the news that some of the Western countries have declined to send officials to attend the opening ceremony because of protests. And but luckily, the IOC president, Mr. Thomas Bach, said a very encouraging comment. He said the Olympic Games are always building bridges and never erecting walls. So many say the sport is a very good way to unite people. Do you agree in your experience?
In the past, it seems to be. But then in the recent 20 years, something like that, remember the Moscow Olympic Games? There was a boycott by many countries. And we, Hong Kong, under the British sovereignty at that time, we also didn't send team. But this is all wrong, because you cannot mix up sports and politics. Unfortunately, in recent world, they do. But imagine the athletes, if you withdraw from a games like Moscow, imagine the athletes train for so many years, their target is to achieve good results. It's not fair to them.
I remember back in the World Wars, even Olympics will still go on. But why is it not happening right now?
That's because too many politics in the world, you know, and too many misconception about China, especially this Beijing one. You know, they're talking about genocide, you know, the Xinjiang people and all that. But that's not true. We all know that. But then...
So how does all this boycott affect the athletes' performance?
Now, it's better than the Moscow Olympic in which they withdraw the whole team, the country. Now it's only they say they won't send their dignitaries, the president won't attend. So it doesn't affect the athletes so much. But you must have read from Facebook media that American is teaching the athletes to say bad things. And then suddenly on the social media platform, the athletes were saying they like it in China.
It's very encouraging, yes, to hear all that.
And they show the room in which the bed is really... fantastic, you
compared
know.
To the Tokyo one.
Compared to Tokyo. And then they show the goodie bag, which we call the goodie bag, with the muscat. And then they also have all kinds of nice food, you know. So that thing doesn't work in a way.
Right.
But I, as an athlete myself before and as an administrator, I do hate this kind of thing.
Yes.
Sports and politics should not mix. No matter how you fight each other, you know, there should be no barrier.
Yeah, all right. Maybe we'll also go for a break and don't go away. Welcome back. Thank you, Vivian, for recalling our golden moments and also sharing some of the pressures and the challenges that our athletes face. Vivian, on the first part of the show, we talked about Hong Kong golden moments. We talk about what sports should not be affected by politics. Let's move on to the personal journey of an athlete. You being an athlete yourself in tenpin bowling, you had some very happy moments, but I'm sure many viewers are going to ask you, what are the most challenging times in being an athlete? And we are very grateful to see so many great athletes now, but I'm sure all of them, including yourself, had gone through very tough times.
Well, I am, let's say the present athletes are more lucky than we are in the past, because when we were athletes at that time, there was not much government funding or none at all. And then we practice on our own. We go on competitions sent by the association. But now the athletes what they are facing right now, the challenge is whether they want to become a full-time athlete or part-time. Now to me, full-time athletes, to some people, they call them professional, but they are not professional. It's just that they are given a subvention by the government. We called it a grant by the government, so they can focus on training all the time and can go to competition whenever they are sent to.
Did this happen before 1997?
Yes. When we have the Jubilee Sports Centers already.
So government has been supporting us for the last 30 years.
But the support has been bigger. You see, before
bigger
it was...
now.
Because before, the Jubilee Sports Center chose the sport they want to support.
Right.
Now, you have a benchmark. You have criteria to become an elite sport. Now, as for the athletes, you will find that out of the 14, 15 elite sports, swimming is the one that have less full-time athletes because their athletes usually go to study in the States, but that's also good for them in that they can be trained in the States. And they come back to Hong Kong when they have to go for games. And then the other challenge some athletes face is the parents, whether they like their children to continue to spend all those time just training, go on competition, try to achieve results, or to study, or after study, work as a career.
So with the recent Olympic successes, where we have so many medals, is it because of all those factors interplaying together for this to happen? I mean, that means in the past, if all of you, I mean, your time and all your colleagues had such support as well, maybe Hong Kong would have done even better in the past times.
Yes. Unfortunately, in my time, the government doesn't place so much emphasis on sport.
Right. Yes. Another issue I want to ask you is about all this social media pressure. One of the athlete in Beijing, Zhu Yi, the ice skater, she had been having a lot of online abuse at Weibo.
I know.
How does that affect their performance?
Now, when they become really a full-time athletes, they need to have a tough mentality.
Right.
So you know you are being attacked by these people on the social media. If I were the athletes, I would have simply ignored and not look at all those things.
Right.
I would not look at my posts. I may shut down my posts when I'm in the games, and then just focus on the training.
Right, but if you say that, I'm like another personality, Eileen Khoo, which suddenly becomes a star for many viewers. She has such a positive attitude, but she still keep getting all these attacks from the Western media, say she has not been grateful to the US. So now sports is being politicized, as you mentioned, you don't like it. How would you advise other athletes when they face such issues? Just ignore them altogether?
Yes, I would say so. Especially when you're in a game and you're competing, maybe for the last time, if your age has reached a certain limit. Why did you let this kind of social media posting affect you? I would have said, why don't you stop looking at your Facebook, at your Instagram during this period if you feel you're being attacked? Can you imagine if you are diverted by this kind of nonsense in a way, you won't be able to focus. But Eileen has a very strong EQ, I noticed.
Yes.
You know, the way she answered the press question about her nationality, about her, about her training and all that, she's really good.
You mentioned about the pre-1997 and after 1997, government support is such an important factor. How does Hong Kong, being a separate, because of one country, two system, because of basic law, we still maintain as a separate entity in the sporting world. Has that been beneficial to the Hong Kong athletes?
Well, actually, even before 1997, the changeover, in 1990, there was the establishment of the funding arm of the government, which is called the Sport Development Board. Since then, more funding and more focus has been given to sport in Hong Kong. And then your other question is the changeover of sovereignty.
Right.
We must thank Mr. Salis, the president of the federation. We call the SFNOC the federation.
Really, he's a legend, isn't he?
He's a legend, He worked hard with Samaranch, and also with the help. Some people doesn't know. Not only Mr. Salis, also Timothy Father.
Mr. Henry Fok, yes.
Henry Fok also played a part in trying to establish that we will still maintain a separate entity in sport and culture. And
actually, we are very fortunate. Hong Kong and Macau, because of the SAR status, we can still march in opening ceremony and closing ceremony as Hong Kong, China. If you're from Guangzhou or Beijing, you are under the China umbrella.
Because, Macau was late in applying for membership under the IOC.
Right.
So they are a member of the Olympic Council of Asia, but not the IOC. So they won't be present.
I see. So Hong Kong is very unique.
Hong Kong is very unique that we manage, because can you imagine if our athletes compare to the Chinese athletes, there may not be an opportunity for them to participate in games,
Because there's far too much competition. Just now you mentioned the word Sports Institute a couple of times, and we know that they sponsor our elite athletes and they become full-time employees. And I believe they support 20th Tier A and 13th Tier B sports. You mentioned even earlier about the Winter Olympics Games, either speed skating and skiing, they are not elite sports. So it all relies on other sponsors. So will this be changed after this Olympics?
You mean talking about the winter sport? I don't think it will change. Because you can see that even though we participated since 2002 in Salt Lake City, there has been no great achievement.
Right.
So it will not be
Should this be changed, do you think?
Well, I'm trying to get the government on your program to pay more attention to winter sport, because look, we are not a winter country. Right? We don't have the facility. And yet, these athletes have to qualify to go to the Winter Games, and they manage to get qualified. So government should look at it this way. If you don't help them, how do you expect them to achieve to a higher level? So there is talk about the Whitehead Sport Park after the Kai Tak Sport Park. And we were hoping that government will build an ice skating rink for the skater. Of course, we won't be able to get a ski slope, and they still have to go back to China or to Europe.
Some of it,
at least we got the skater. And you can also develop ice hockey as well. And even curling.
Just now, the curling is something that we look forward to having it with the Hong Kong team. Professor Zhong Pak Gong from the Baptist University says a revamp of the elite training system is needed. another official also mentioned that Asians, we should concentrate on sports that doesn't rely so much on our physique, like shooting or archery or even table tennis, for example, but not on something like judo or karate, taekwondo. But karate has proven that we have done it. So do you think we should work along that line?
Yes, in a way. In a way, like snooker, shooting, even tenpin bowling, they are sort of a mind game. You see the athlete's lifespan is longer because it doesn't really need that kind of explosive energy. We should actually train more of those athletes which are in sports that can be competing with the European countries, you know. And that is also a good a good move.
Right. Yes.
But then it doesn't mean that we cannot really compete with other countries in sport that needs more strength.
Right.
But however, it is a bit difficult with our Asians, you know, build and all that.
Yeah, Vivian, after the recent successful Olympics, the CE has announced and reminded us of the government's three-pronged approach in the sporting in the policy, like they are promoting the elite sports, promoting the sport in the community, and also maintaining all these major international sports events. With the upcoming chief executive election in March, what will be your wish list to the chief executive in terms of sports?
My wish is the chief executive spend more money on the developing sport, which might come under their committee. You know, there are 3 committees under the sport commission, like you said just now. So, to me, coach is a very important thing.
Is money the only issue that we need?
Yes, yes.
It's very, very simple. More funding and we have more success.
Right, because now the development sport cannot have a full-time coach unless they come up with sponsorship. So without a full-time coach, the athletes' improvement will be limited in a way.
Okay, we'll definitely keep that in mind when we meet potential candidates in the future.
Yes, please do.
Yes. Thank you, Vivian, for giving our viewers an understanding of the challenges our athletes face and how so many different factors have to work together for Hong Kong to achieve success. Thank you for watching and good night.